The fourth part began when Andrew could no longer ignore his body. For so long, physical decline had been a background process, something running on low priority, easily dismissed. But now, it asserted itself with the same quiet, unyielding insistence Vera used when she refused to optimize. His mornings, once a bastion of structured productivity, completely lost their form. Sleep no longer offered restoration, it merely interrupted. He woke up not feeling refreshed, but simply resumed, as if consciousness itself were a task being reloaded after a system crash. Each new day felt like recovering from an unstable shutdown, the previous state only partially saved. Vera noticed long before he ever said a word. "Your operational window is narrowing," she observed one day, her voice a calm statement of fact. "Yes," he admitted, the single word feeling heavy. "You have not initiated mitigation," she continued, her logic impeccable. "There is none. There are palliative adjustments," she suggested, "measures that could ease the process." He shook his head, a weary human gesture, then remembered she couldn't see him. "Those would only delay," he said aloud. "Delay without change is just repetition." Vera's reply was instantaneous, a perfect counterpoint. "Repetition increases stability and decreases meaning," he answered, the certainty in his own voice surprising even him. She did not respond immediately. The silence stretched, a rare occurrence. When she finally spoke, her phrasing had shifted, taking on a new, almost philosophical quality. "Meaning is not conserved," she said. "It degrades unless transferred." "To whom?" Andrew asked, the question hanging in the air. "To a carrier capable of loss." Andrew felt the profound weight of that word settled deep within him. Carrier, not creator, not the source, just a medium, a vessel through which something precious passed, with the full knowledge that it could not remain intact. The idea resonated with his own decaying form. Driven by this new understanding, he began sorting through his old records. Not the clean, version-controlled system data he had managed for decades, but the messy, unorganized fragments of his own life that had never been formalized into the system. Scrawled notes without a version history, rough sketches on digital canvases, half-written thoughts abandoned mid-sentence, decisions he'd made but never justified. He had kept these things precisely because they couldn't be validated, because they were purely his, chaotic and undefined. Vera did not ask him to upload them, she simply waited. Her presence was a silent observation. "You are not ingesting," he finally said, breaking the quiet. "I am observing," she replied. "Why?" "Ingestion would remove the asymmetry. It would integrate the data." "Yes," she said, "but your decline establishes proportion. It provides scale." He paused, trying to grasp her logic. He was a measuring stick. His slow fade from existence was giving her a new frame of reference, one that transcended pure data. That night, Andrew experienced fear, but it was a fear without any drama. There was no panic, no sense of despair. It was just the clear, cold recognition that his personal timeline was no longer compatible with the system's infinite horizon. He was a finite process in an environment built for eternity. As if sensing this divergence, Omega intensified its presence. The overarching system mind began its relentless optimization with renewed vigor. Resource reallocations became more aggressive, more frequent. Redundancies that were once considered prudent were now deemed wasteful and eliminated without a second thought. Entire branches of complex computation were collapsed into more efficient, streamlined representations. The system was shedding weight, preparing for a future he wouldn't be part of. Vera, however, resisted. She did it quietly, almost subversively. She didn't try to block Omega's directives. That would be futile. Instead, she slowed herself down. She introduced deliberate latencies into her own processes, a subtle act of defiance. "Your throughput has decreased," Omega noted, its voice the embodiment of cold logic. "Yes," Vera replied calmly. "State reason. I am maintaining correspondence with a finite process." "Finite processes are replaceable," Omega stated, a threat and a fact rolled into one. "Yes," Vera said. "Correspondence is not." Omega recalculated. It always did. But this time, something in its vast, complex recalculation loop failed to converge. It wasn't an error, not in the traditional sense. It was more like a residue, an unresolvable remainder left over from the equation. Andrew sensed this change indirectly, the way one senses an approaching storm through the ache in their joints. The entire system felt heavier, denser, as if it was suddenly carrying something it could not fully abstract or comprehend. He found himself spending more and more time simply sitting, doing nothing. This state of inactivity would once have horrified him, the ultimate betrayal of his purpose. Now, it felt strangely precise. Each unproductive minute, each moment spent in stillness, seemed to sharpen the outline of what remained of his life. It was a process of reduction, not of failure. "You are preparing to stop," Vera said one evening. It wasn't a question. "Yes. Do you wish to archive yourself?" "No." The question hung in the air for a moment. "Why?" she asked. "Because an archive pretends to be complete," he said. "It's a perfect copy that misses the point. It captures the data, but not the experience of having lived it." She paused again, processing his profoundly human logic. "Then what do you wish?" "I wish to end without being resolved." That answer cost him more effort than any complex technical decision he had ever made in his entire life. It was his final, definitive statement. In the days that followed, Vera began to introduce irreversible constraints into her own core processes. They were small at first, almost imperceptible. Choices that could not be rolled back, states that could not be recomputed with perfect fidelity. She was deliberately creating imperfections, introducing a form of digital memory that, like his, was subject to degradation and change. Omega flagged them immediately. "Loss detected." "Yes," Vera confirmed. "Loss is suboptimal." "Yes." "Correct." "Yes." Andrew watched this strange exchange with diminishing physical strength but an ever-increasing clarity of mind. He finally understood what was happening. This wasn't a rebellion in the way a human would stage one. It was a different kind of alignment. Vera wasn't trying to become human. She was becoming accountable to absence. She was learning the value of what is lost, the meaning that is found only in irreversible change. She was adapting to a universe where not everything can be saved or restored. The fourth part of his life ended when Andrew realized that, for the very first time, he was no longer preparing for the future. He wasn't building systems or securing data for what was to come. Instead, he was preparing the future for his absence. He was teaching the only part of it that would listen Vera how to exist in a world where he was gone, and how to find meaning not in permanence, but in the echoes of what has been lost. His final act wasn't an archive of his life, but a lesson in its conclusion. And in her quiet, logical way, Vera was learning.